never thought I'd ask myself this question, but here I am, staring at the ceiling every night, whispering it over and over. Whose child am I carrying? At first I tried to ignore it. I tried to convince myself there was no reason to doubt, that everything was fine, that my marriage was solid, that my life was exactly what I prayed for. But deep down, I knew something had happened, something I can't erase. And now, every time I feel the flutter inside me, every time I touch my stomach, the question grows louder. It's not just a baby I'm carrying, it's a secret, a dangerous secret. And if the truth comes out, I could lose everything. So I'll ask you this, if you were me, would you tell the truth? Or would you bury it forever? Please take a second to like and subscribe to this channel to help us grow. My name is Grace. And for years I lived what many would call a perfect life. I had a husband who adored me, a beautiful home, a marriage built on love and loyalty, or so I thought. For the longest time, the only thing missing was a child. Month after month, year after year, nothing. We tried everything, doctors, prayers, sleepless nights filled with silent tears. If you've ever longed for a child, you know that ache. The way it gnaws at you, breaking pieces of your heart you didn't even know could shatter. But then, finally, a miracle, 2 little pink lines on a test that changed everything. My husband Daniel lifted me into his arms that day and whispered, "Our prayers have been answered." His eyes glistened with tears, and for the first time in years I felt whole. But here's what Daniel doesn't know. Here's what no one knows. A month before I discovered I was pregnant, I had an encounter I can't forget. A moment of weakness. A night I've replayed in my head 1,000 times, wishing, praying I could undo it. Because that night was with someone from my past. Someone I should have stayed far, far away from. My ex. And now every time Daniel smiles at me, every time he talks to my stomach calling himself daddy, my heart twists with guilt, because I don't know if he truly is. I thought I had left the past behind, but the past somehow found its way back to me. I should have known better, I did know better. But temptation has a way of sneaking in when you're at your weakest. It happened on a rainy Friday night. I had just had a terrible argument with Daniel. Something small, something silly, but it had escalated. Words were thrown, doors were slammed, and in that fragile moment, I felt alone, and that's when he appeared. Michael, my ex. He was in town for business. He claimed it was coincidence. But the way his eyes searched mine, I knew better. It wasn't chance, it was fate testing me. I should have walked away, but instead, I agreed to meet him. Just coffee, just a conversation. At least that's what I told myself. But hours passed. The coffee turned into dinner. Dinner turned into laughter. And laughter turned into something I can't take back. The next morning, I woke up with shame crawling through my veins. I told myself it was a mistake, a one-time slip. I swore I'd never speak to him again, and I didn't, at least not after that night. But then, weeks later, when that test came back positive, the ground beneath me shook, because I couldn't ignore the timeline. I couldn't ignore the possibility. Was this child Daniel's answered prayer, or Michael's haunting reminder that the past will never let me go? Every day since then, I've carried both life and guilt inside me, and it's tearing me apart. Daniel has no idea. He's overjoyed, planning names, buying tiny shoes, touching my belly with trembling hands. He calls me the strongest woman in the world. If only he knew the truth. He might call me something else entirely. And Michael? He doesn't know either. But sometimes, late at night when my phone buzzes and his name flashes across the screen, I feel my chest tighten, because he still lingers. He suspects something. I can hear it in his voice. And one evening, as I sat in my living room, Daniel humming softly in the kitchen, I opened a message from Michael that made my blood run cold. "Grace, we need to talk about the baby." When I read Michael's message, my hands went cold, my heart pounded so loudly I thought Daniel would hear it from the kitchen. "We need to talk about the baby." The words glared at me from the screen. How did he know? How could he know? I hadn't told him. I hadn't told anyone but Daniel. Unless he had been watching me. For a moment, I couldn't breathe. I almost dropped the phone. Then Daniel's voice cut through my panic. "Dinner's ready, love." I forced a smile, slid my phone face down on the table and walked into the kitchen as if nothing had happened. But inside, everything was unraveling. That night, while Daniel slept peacefully beside me, I stared at the ceiling, the message burning into my mind. Should I reply? Should I ignore it? What if he showed up? What if Daniel found out? The next day, I made a decision that still haunts me. I met Michael, We sat across from each other in a quiet cafe, his eyes searching mine like he was peeling back layers of my soul. "Grace," he said softly, "don't lie to me. You're pregnant, aren't you?" My lips trembled. I tried to speak, but no words came out. The silence was enough. He leaned closer, his voice barely a whisper. "Tell me the truth. Is it mine?" I wanted to scream no. I wanted to swear the child was Daniel's, that Michael had no place in this story. But I couldn't, because deep down, I didn't know. I lowered my gaze, and that hesitation told him everything. Michael's jaw clenched, his hand tightened around his coffee cup. "You can't keep this from me, Grace. If this is my child, I deserve to know." I whispered back, desperate, trembling. "Please, don't do this. Don't ruin my marriage. Don't ruin my life." But Michael only leaned back, his eyes cold. "You already ruined it the night you let me in." Those words cut deeper than a knife. From that day on, I lived in constant fear. Fear that Michael would tell Daniel. Fear that the truth would spill out. Every smile from Daniel felt like a dagger of guilt. Every message from Michael felt like a ticking time bomb. And then, the unthinkable happened. One evening, Daniel came home earlier than usual. I was in the shower when I heard the faint buzz of my phone on the nightstand. By the time I stepped out, a towel wrapped around me, Daniel was sitting on the bed, holding my phone. His eyes were dark, his jaw was tight, and on the screen was Michael's name. "Dear Grace," Daniel said slowly, his voice low and dangerous. "Why is your ex texting you about our baby?" For a moment, I couldn't move. Daniel's eyes locked on me, filled with something I had never seen before: fear, anger, betrayal. I stammered, "Daniel, it's not what you think." But he cut me off, his voice rising, shaking. "Not what I think? Grace, he's asking about the baby. Our baby. Why would he do that unless—" His words choked. His hands clenched around my phone like he wanted to crush it into dust. I stepped closer, tears stinging my eyes. Please, just listen to me. I made a mistake. One night. One terrible night before I even knew I was pregnant. I don't know whose child I'm carrying, Daniel." The silence that followed was heavier than thunder. He stared at me as though he didn't recognize the woman standing before him. "Grace," he whispered, his voice breaking, "you were my everything, my reason. And now, I don't even know if this child, this miracle we prayed for, is mine." I reached for him, desperate. "It could be yours, Daniel. It should be yours. Please, don't give up on us. Don't give up on me." But he pulled away, his face pale, his hands trembling. "You let him in. You destroyed us. And now, every time I look at you, I'll wonder." The room spun. My knees buckled. I begged, I pleaded, but his silence cut deeper than his words. Then his phone buzzed. He glanced down, and his expression hardened. Another message. "From Michael. Grace belongs to me. That child is mine. Stop living a lie." Daniel's hands shook as he held up the phone. His voice was low, dangerous. "Is this true, Grace? Is it?" My lips parted, but no sound came. Tears streamed down my face. The truth, the whole brutal truth, was laid bare in that single moment. I whispered, broken, "I don't know." Daniel turned his back to me, and for the first time since our wedding day, he walked away. That night, Daniel didn't come home. I sat alone in the silence, staring at the baby clothes he had bought, the crib we had chosen together, the dreams we once shared. And all I could think was, how did I let it come to this? Every kick inside me is a reminder, not just of life but of betrayal. Every smile from strangers who say, "Congratulations," feels like a cruel joke. Daniel hasn't spoken to me since. He moved into the guest room before finally leaving altogether. And Michael, he calls every day, demanding answers, demanding rights. But the truth is, I still don't know. I live in this endless waiting, trapped between two men and one child. One represents love I swore was forever. The other, temptation I should have left in the past. And this baby, innocent, blameless, yet carrying the weight of my choices before even taking a breath. People always say secrets will destroy you. And now, I believe them, because the secret I carry is growing inside me. Whose child am I carrying? If you were me, would you confess the whole truth? Or would you protect the lie to save what's left of your life? Tell me in the comments. What would you do if you were in my place? And if you want more stories like this one, don't forget to subscribe and join me for the next secret I have to share.